And we're back. Survivor Hot Takes. It is me, Coach Drew, joined as always by Emily. Emily, how are you doing?
I'm thriving. What a week to be alive, y'all.
And and back for the third time in 2 weeks. No, second time in 2 weeks. I don't know. We have Sarah. Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Can't wait to talk Survivor.
Sarah, we missed you so
let's-
much.
Yeah,
We
let's
really missed
go
you.
into it. No gang signs. Finale. Do you think that they capped off the season in a way that we can look back on this season as one of the better ones? It doesn't have to be one of the best or whatever. Do you think that they stuck the landing, Emily?
Literally, like, when I know that I exaggerate a lot. I know that I'm always a 12, okay? But this is a really authentic feeling for me. Like, the winner's edit, I think I can go back to say, even if I think about all the other winners in the history of Survivor, one of the most beautifully articulated winner's edits I think that I've ever seen in Survivor history, especially in modern Survivor history when it's like less obvious. We were able to get a holistic picture of Marianne from the start, a lot of her trials and tribulations, and like her growth from a caterpillar to a butterfly, as the one episode said. So yeah, absolutely. I think they stuck the landing, crushed it.
Sarah?
Oh, yeah. I know we all were crying at the end of that finale.
A wreck.
Yeah, a wreck. I don't think I've ever cried more in any episode of Survivor, just because it was like it all came full circle. And like you said, like the winner's edit story was just beautifully articulated all season. And to see it come to fruition, like I was bawling.
Yeah,
I know.
absolutely.
I
No.
mean, speaking of balling, for anyone that doesn't follow me on social media, I had a moment
it
where
was so cute.
I kind of turned into 11-year-old me, and I started bawling. And it was, and I think we all said this last week, we would have been fine with any of 4 of the final 5 winning. So even if Mike or Romeo had won, I wouldn't have gotten that reaction, but I would have been like, you know what? I get it. No, after that tribal council, I wouldn't have got it, but I get it. And I actually didn't even hear the last Marianne vote because I was sobbing and laughing somehow. But yeah, I it's been a long time since I've had that type of not even crying reaction, just that type of emotional attachment to a finale. Non returners included, since maybe like I don't know. I want to say honestly, like I know it's crazy, but probably Worlds Apart, mainly because if any of those monsters won that wasn't Mike, then I would have been pretty pissed off. So
True.
I would go with Worlds Apart the last time that I was like deeply invested in. Please God, just let this happen and we can get.
That's like such a unique answer too.
Wow.
I love that.
Never.
Because I mean, 32. Like Michelle or Aubrey or Ty, it was fine. Like I didn't care. Like I cared, but when it was Gen X, I was rooting for Hannah. But 35, it was more of a please don't let Ben win. But whatever. Wendell, I was fine with winning. I would have taken Dom too. Either way, Dave versus Goliath, just not Nick. But whatever, it happened.
If it was Christian, I would have been a wreck.
Edge of
It would have been
Extinction, Chris Underwood, I understood that, and then 39, I was like, can we please just finish this? I don't even care what happens right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, like that, all those extra incidents or the big crisis kind of took away from any winner winning. And that's just kind of the reality of the game.
But I just think that even just going and this is the frustrating part. We're gonna kind of skip around all over the place tonight. One of the more frustrating things is, and I hate using this phrase until I started this podcast, but the casuals. The casuals are so frustrating because they feel like they actually know because they're removed from the shits. Like, we're all in the shits. But they because they're removed, they can watch it without any type of biases, which is absolutely false. So the fact that they're saying that not only was Jonathan robbed, but that somehow it was because of the woke police that Marianne beat the other two, specifically Mike, is weird. Because if anyone that has eyes and ears sat there and watched her performance, they would understand that yes, she won. Like even if she won just based off of that, we've seen that happen before. Mm-hmm. So it's not, it's not wokeness or anything like that. It's just the fact that when, like I said all season, you don't want Marianne sitting at the end because she's proven time and time again that she is a great speaker. And what did she do? She went in there and outspoke two people that actually talked very well. I really enjoyed Romeo's speech. I really enjoyed Mike's speech. I actually really enjoyed when Mike had his coming to Jesus moment where he realized I wasn't as loyal and honest as I thought I was. I thought that took a lot. That took a lot for him to say, and I appreciated that moment. Having said that, I still think that Marianne walked circles around them there. Sarah, what were you thinking at that final tribal?
I was going into it thinking Marianne was already going to win, right? But I think the jury was torn between Marianne and Mike, and I think a lot of them were leaning toward Mike. And it sounds like in post interviews that originally most of the jury was going to vote for Mike, which is wild to me. But Marianne, her whole entire speech, I was just like chills all over. She was an incredible speaker, and it wasn't until like the end of Final Tribal Council that she really just like completely swayed them over. And I think popping out that idol and the way that she talked about it, and not just like, hey, look, I have an idol I didn't play, but she made it this big moment. And I think that really pushed her game forward. And yeah, I'm just like in awe of her. I'm so proud of her. So proud.
Absolutely. I don't know if this is true or not, but I listened to one of the post-game interviews, and I was told that like she wasn't even planning on even showing that idol, but because they were trying to push the vote, and Jeff said something along the lines of like, okay, so like, are you guys ready to go? And Hai said something like, no, I'm not ready. Like, I need a lot more time. And then like after that, then that gave Marianne the opportunity to even be able to showcase that idol and make that like jaw-dropping speech.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I think that's what I saw in a few interviews.
Yeah, Lindsay was saying the same thing. She's like, I didn't know who to vote for until that moment where Marianne was given the opportunity to showcase her idol. And I think that was just like, oh my gosh, I'm getting chills right now.
Yeah, I have them right now too, twin. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the moment. They were all like, that's the winner right there.
Yeah. And I've always said this before, like, especially whenever we did like, a deep dive into a different season, like during our off seasons, that like the winner of Survivor, I would say that it's almost torn 50-50. It's like your performance of the game holistically, your relationships, how you play the challenges, your strategy, all that stuff, but the other 50% is that final tribal. It's how can you showcase this to a verbal resume to appease to 9 different people with 9 different perceptions of you, and I think that like, Andrew, I know that you mentioned that you really liked how Mike really owned up to that, but I think that that's really what faltered his game, at least in my opinion, because I felt like, he said, like, he's like, whoa, oh my gosh, you're right. I didn't realize that I was, and instead he kind of should have taken more of an approach like Marianne, where like, this is my game, I own it, and I was showing of all like honor and loyalty to myself. Does that make sense?
I get that.
Yeah.
But I don't I feel like because in real time, if I'm Mike,
right,
and I'm sitting there, and in my head, I'm convinced that I actually did play this loyal, upstanding game, and then I have a moment in real time when these people are telling me that I'm not. Impulsively, I might jump on the apologetic train just because it's like, it's one of those, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's one of those coming to Jesus moments where it's like, oh my goodness, I really did do this. I feel, I won't say ashamed, but I feel a certain type of way now. And like, all credit to him for acknowledging it, that in that situation. And I honestly think that if Marianne hadn't put on the performance that she had, I still think Mike probably gets more than one vote.
Yeah.
I honestly think that if Marianne had gone in and just been very pedestrian with how she spoke, but still won, I feel like the votes would have been more split on her, Mike, and potentially even Romeo, because I feel like Romeo actually did very well at that final tribal. And I feel like people probably gave respect to the fact that he said, I didn't have to be dragged to get here. I did what I had to do at that point to get here. And I feel like no matter what Mike did in that situation, it was always what the person above him did better. In another season, him being apologetic and all that, I feel like that could have potentially swayed a jury or kept the jury on his side and said, you know what?
In an old school season, 100%. Yeah.
It would have been almost like Chris Doherty in Vanuatu, but he was putting on a show. Like, the only difference is Chris Doherty was putting on a show. I felt like Mike was genuine. So if Chris Doherty's in there, apologizing and like, oh, I brought your hat, Julie, and I love all of you, you're like my little sister. It's like, all right, you got him. But with Mike, it was like he understood what happened after starting off slow at the final tribal. He realized what had happened and said, you know what? I screwed up. I'm acknowledging this. However this goes, I love you all. And I really like, and I mean, I've liked Mike all of the season. So I really enjoyed that moment with him.
Yeah, I think that he is such a genuine person. Like, I don't think that he has an ingenuine bone in his body. So it was just more natural, more like a reflex for him to be able to like be like, oh, I didn't want to hurt anyone. Like, I'm sorry if I did, and I think that like that's where it makes it really uncomfortable, because it's like you have to like be genuine, but you also have to like prove that what you did was for your own advancement, so it gets tough.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think like he could have had quite a few of the votes. Like, I think Drea and Omar would have voted for Mike if he had been like, hey, I was a villain. I played you all. Like, I was honest to myself and just like owned his game straightforward. I think he would have had definitely a few of the votes, if not maybe potentially winning.
Can I ask another question too with Mike? Just because like what we're just kind of like throwing odds, but like we saw at least like in the final 5, he was like, oh, I'm gonna show my loyalty to Marianne and play my idol for Marianne. Okay. Hypothetically, if he didn't do that, if he still had that idol at the very end and Marianne didn't have that jaw-dropping, like, well, I'm the only one who's able to keep this secret and this idol is the only one that no one knew about, and like I didn't have to play it. And Mike said, well, I had one that you all knew about and I still didn't have to play it. Like, that spoke to my social game. How do you think that would have played out?
Probably not as powerful. Yeah.
I mean, one of the only comparisons that we kind of have, and even then it's only halfway there, is Xander had the idol the entire time last season, and everyone knew that Xander had the idol the entire time last season, and it didn't matter at the end.
Yeah,
but obviously the big difference is it's not like Erica also had an idol that she just kept quiet the entire time and then pulled it out. So I like, that's the only thing I can really compare it to. But I honestly don't think, like, yes, they probably wouldn't have held as much stake in the final tribal as what actually happened. But I do feel like people probably would have put more stock in the wording behind it. And what that's one thing, is the wording behind it was the only secret in the game was that I had this, that no one, Drea, who a lot of people considered one of the bigger threats in the game, Drea had all of these advantages, and a lot of people knew about most of them.
Yeah.
Omer, and we find out later, after the game, Omer had this idol nullifier that it turns out a lot of people knew about.
True.
And he goes. So the one person that was able to keep their mouths shut until day 26 was Marianne. And so if she pulls that out and says, hey, you know what? I did something better than all of you, because she didn't phrase it like that, but that's what it was. I did something better than all of you. I kept this secret. Here's the idol. Here's the note. I'm not lying about it. So
I think what made it such a powerful moment for her is that Mike played his idol on her. Like, if he hadn't played his idol on her, I don't think it would have been as powerful. But the fact that she was like, I had an idol played on me and I had one for myself that I kept a secret, like, that is what shocked everyone. I think if Mike had not played it on her and she had played her own idol on herself and Mike had the idol at the end, he can't say, oh, someone played an idol on me and I still had an idol. So Marianne, I think, really stands out because of that.
True. Aw. I'm so happy for her.
I know, me too.
Andrew, you're muted. How embarrassing.
Oh, no.
You're so muted. Oh, my gosh.
Me and Andrew on the show.
There he is.
That's embarrassing. You're right. So
I'm taking over the podcast.
Marianne wins, and we still have that awkward reunion. I feel like it was less awkward than last time because it didn't seem like. No, that's a lie. Romeo did seem like he was still a little bit in shock about what would happen. I felt like he looked like he was coming down from everything, which rightfully so.
Yeah.
But Marianne wins, and how do we feel? Like, before we get to how a certain section of the community feels, how do we feel about Marianne winning? I would say that going in, I thought that she was going to be a fun character. I thought that she'd probably make it far-ish, like, as far as making the merge. There was a few weeks where I was convinced that she was going to go home. But I always said, if she sits at the end, she's not a GOAT because she knows how to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm happy that she did win. I would say that I don't do deserving and non-deserving because everyone deserves, but I definitely say that I feel like this is going to be a win that a lot of people are on the good side on the I think that she deserved to win type thing. But how does everyone else feel?
I'm living for it. Like, I think that, like, I talked, I think that I've mentioned this in a few podcasts where I love seasons where you can expect the unexpected. And I think that the big challenge a lot of the time is like that the stronger characters become the most predictable winners.
Mm-hmm.
But with Marianne, and not just with Marianne, I think like the variety of the cast and the editors, props to the editors this time, because they really encapsulated a bunch of individualized journeys. And Marianne was something, because they did such a great job at editing so many truths, Marianne was someone who I didn't honestly expect to make it all the way to the end. And like that, like she took me by surprise, and like I was so satisfied to even watch her win. So I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, definitely. I think she's going to go down as one of the greatest winners. I think just from the audience perspective, like, I think most people do respect her as a winner. I feel like Erica didn't maybe get as much respect as Marianne has, for different reasons. But I think Marianne is a top tier winner, and I think she delivered one of the best final tribal council speeches that we've seen. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I would say that, honestly, I know that the actual network put it in their top 5 favorite or all-time final tribal council winners. I would put her in my top 3 as far as final tribal moments, just because I would have Todd, obviously, the hood emblem of what it takes to do, what to do in the final tribal, Chris Doherty, and then Marianne, in whatever order.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, in my head, I probably put Marianne over Chris. But hopefully and this is kind of going off topic for a second, when I do 42 and 42 over the summer, Vanuatu is actually the season that I'm most looking forward to rewatching. Mm-hmm. I'm like really excited for it. Like I'm like almost hyped. Just because I want to see if the Chris thing continues to hold up. And I've watched Vanuatu probably 3 times in life, so like I feel like it will, but I want to compare it now to Marianne's. Mm-hmm. Now that I have something else to compare it off of. It's always like Todd or Chris. Now it's Chris or Marianne, because I feel like Marianne might actually take it in my head. But let's go to the negative, I guess. Why do you think that so many people feel like Jonathan was somehow robbed, or whatever the case is? Do you think that there's merit to those statements, or do you think it's just a bunch of bitter Bettys? No offense to any bitter Bettys listening.
Sarah, do you want to take this from me too?
Sure. No, I definitely don't think he was robbed. I think he got farther than anyone expected. So I think people just didn't feel the need to vote him out because they knew he wasn't going to win. Like, listening to Romeo's interview, he was like, I could have taken Jonathan with me to the end, but he was like, he was seen as a goat in a way because people weren't going to vote for him. So I think Romeo deciding not to take Jonathan, like, he was trying to stand out more, and he wanted to take someone who played a good game in Marianne. But I think Jonathan, he was not a great person at all on the show. He talked down to women. The only thing I can give him credit for is his involvement in the Idol Nullifier. He was a big part in that and a big part in that vote. So that wasn't really seen on the season, but that's like the one little thing I can give him credit for, and everything else I'm just like, that's on you.
I agree with you.
Emily, before you say anything, I don't swear often on Twitter. I try not to. But when Jonathan tried to claim Marianne's move as his, I lost my fucking mind.
Because that's just what he does.
I couldn't believe it.
He honestly, he can't recognize that a woman would have a better idea than he would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's like, I think that we brought someone onto the show before who, like, which is fantastic. Ryan is fantastic. He brought up an interesting insight where he thought that, like, the edit gives you a whole picture, and I kind of want to counter, because that's given me like a lot to think about, because I've never heard someone give that as a perspective, which I think is super interesting. But I want to counter with not just the edit, but I think the exit interviews give you a much more holistic picture, because the edit will show you how people got to where they are, or like little glow moments, or like moments that really stand out, which can make people look polarizing, either really great or really less than great. And you create your truth based on what the edit shows, but you get more of the edit, more of the holistic picture whenever you actually hear people's unfiltered experiences whenever they were spending 24 hours, 26 days, on an island with these people.
That's so true. The edit was not wrong about Jonathan. He really did treat women like that, and everyone who's been out of the game can testify for that. So, like, that is super important to know. And I think I'm realizing how important it is to listen to his post-game interviews, because it, like, has completely opened my eyes up to, like, the whole entire game. Like you said, like, it's not just the edit that's showing the game, it's everything, all the post-game interviews.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like the post-game interviews are actually not more important, but they're important because these people are now removed, sometimes 6 months to a year removed from when they played.
Mm-hmm.
They could easily just change their mind and say, you know what, they weren't such a bad person, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that Lindsay used such loaded language as basically calling him a chauvinist and saying...
A misogynist, he literally said that, yeah.
She said on day 5 is when she was done with him. And we weren't even shown that in the edit. We were shown like, oh yeah, they're working together. They've been working together for a while.
Yeah.
She said on day 5, I was done with the guy. And I feel like that's very important because, and I've also thought a lot about what Ryan said as far as the edit doesn't lie. It just gives
gives a sample of the truth, but it depends on whose truth they're trying to tell.
Yeah.
I once sat on a Zoom with like 4 or 5 of the Villains tribe from Heroes vs. Villains.
I wanted to go to that. I'm so jealous of you.
It was a lot of fun.
So
But it was, Danielle, Sandra, Coach, and Courtney. So I was in a room with Danielle. Oh, actually, no. I started with a room with Coach, and Coach kind of mentioned that he wasn't the biggest fan of a certain someone on his tribe. someone asked Sandra, who did you hate living with more, Johnny Fairplay or Russell Hantz? Sandra said Fairplay's fine, like he's a goofball, but he's fine. I hated living with Russell. Danielle, like, you could tell she still had I don't want to say PTSD, but like it's kind of what it felt like.
Right.
They asked her Terry or Russell, and she said like, yeah, Terry, I felt like I just hated women, but Russell was just a monster. And I'm like, okay, so that's 10 years removed, and we've always heard whispers. So like the fact that she was still saying that, I would say would add merit to how she felt about what was going on.
Right.
And so these people, yes, they're 1 year removed, but I still feel like that's enough time for their views on certain people to potentially change, because after the game is over, I know it's not the same, and Sarah can attest to this. It's not exactly the same, but like playing in online games and playing in live games, there are those moments where it's like, do I hit up this person afterwards? Are they going to hate me because of things that I did in the game? Should I just let it go and just let them live their life and let me live mine? But I feel like, especially with 42, we've seen a lot of evidence to suggest that a lot of them do get along very well, and that, yes, despite some of the bitterness that there might have been on day 26, it doesn't seem like it carried over much, May of 2022.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like that's what these people online should be looking at, and not the fact that, oh yeah, well, did you see the way she was talking down to him?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, sure, yeah, I saw. I guess I don't like.
I didn't see her talking down to Jonathan at all, though. Like, if that's like, yeah, I didn't see any woman try to talk down to him. I think that like the only like not even talking down, but the only time that he was challenged was whenever Lindsay told him like, it's a dumb idea to put Marianne as our backup person if the Straya vote doesn't go through. I remember like, and he was like, I guess we got to think about that, But I think that like it doesn't go both ways in that sort of situation. It's very, very evident that it's one-sided.
Yeah. And when the whole cast like has not hung out with him or talked about him, like it's very clear, clear that he was portrayed correctly in the edit, and he is like that. So I just avoid Facebook now. I'm like, let me just stick with Twitter.
That's what I have to do too. I'm like, my people, but I think that it is also like so interesting. Like I've been, this season's definitely been one of my favorites. I've been covering it like nonstop, constantly. I'm always like listening to podcasts, listening to interviews. And I think that it says something that many women have come forward and have openly articulated that he was someone that made them feel less than, or that he spoke down to them. It's strong language, and they're taking a stand very publicly, So I think that that's like knowing that it's going to be open instead of making that choice to be like, yeah, like, I mean, he was portrayed in that way, but like we can all grow, blah, blah, like just trying to spin it off. Choosing to speak out about that, I think, is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. Probably, yeah, because, and this is once again, I'm just talking to someone that hasn't done actual Survivor or anything like that, but I feel like just knowing myself, even if someone annoyed me out there, doing post-game press almost a year later, I feel like I would probably like, unless I did not like the person at all to that day, I'd probably just say, oh no, they were fine. Like, oh no, they like like one time this happened and it was so much fun. Or just say things that, just be civil, because that's my Myers-Briggs. I am the mediator. I don't like when people don't like me. I like to keep it civil. I don't like when there's drama. So I feel like I would do that unless I had a strong opinion on someone, and that's really what all of us are saying at this point for like 7 minutes.
Right.
The fact that people are still saying this shows maybe there was an issue. So Facebook moms, I love you. You're amazing. You give me fodder, but
respectfully, I have to leave all your groups. I just have to for my health.
So moving on. how have you guys enjoyed the post game? Do you think that this? I mean, we've lived in the social media era for roughly like 15 to 16 seasons of Survivor. So like, there is precedent to this. How do you feel like these people actually enjoy each other, or do you think they're still putting on a show right now for the next couple of weeks and then going back to hating each or whatever? Do you think that these people actually enjoyed being out there and enjoy each other in life?
Yeah, 100%. Like I was telling people that I feel like we haven't seen a cast this close since David versus Goliath. I feel like David versus Goliath was just like known for its iconic cast, and I mean, they still hang out. That group does. And then 42, we're seeing everybody hanging out with each other and everyone interacting with each other on social media. Like, I feel like I'm a part of their little world. Like, I've interacted with them on Twitter, and they'll just respond to people's tweets left and right and each other's, and it's really fun. They do like Instagram lives all the time together. I don't think we saw that with 41. I think Tiffany might have been like the glue to the 41 cast, but
I feel that way too.
Yeah. I think Tiffany really tried to build that community, but there was division between like Shannon Ricard, and like I think that caused a lot of waves in the 41 cast. But 42, like they love each other. They love each other.
And it is like just so hard to gauge too, because like we haven't really we're still navigating a COVID type of world where like, you know, travel and like group settings is either like acceptable or not acceptable, just depending on how the cases are looking. So like it's so hard to even gauge that with 41 and with 40, obviously, because like they all have they have years and years of history. And obviously 39, that was just, it just wasn't a bop, you know, like it just wasn't a bop. So I think that it is kind of like a new age of Survivor where the cast has such great chemistry and they can kind of navigate like the game, but also like value the relationships.
And there's so much we didn't see in the edits, because like in a lot of the interviews, they're like, oh yeah, I was like #1 allies with, you know, this person or this person. And we're like, what? We didn't see that. Like I know Lindsay said, me and Jonathan were never close. I was always with Omar. But early on, we saw Omar and Jonathan as a duo. But really, it was Lindsay and Omar the whole time. And you know, I know Marianne was super close to Tori, and I know who else? Marianne was like really close to someone else. Romeo and her were like a duo, and that wasn't really portrayed. There was a lot happening that we didn't see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, especially on this show, but on other things, Tori has gotten a lot of hate. I'm just going to put it out there. But I think that is once again a testament. I hate going back to this, but I think that's a testament to the merit that what these post-game interviews are saying about Jonathan as compared to Tori, who seems universally loved by almost everyone that played with her.
Yeah.
So, you know, despite the fact that, you know, people online, you know, might not agree with certain things that she believes in, and yes, I have opinions on that. It seems like Tori is a great person, and I felt that way watching her play. I know for the small portion of people that listen to this that know Sequester, watching her play Sequester live, I was rooting for Tori to win. So, you know, I understand that in the world we live in, people are going to hop on people's beliefs outside the show, and I'm not here to say that that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that in this instance, the fact that a lot of the Twitter community doesn't like Tori, but the cast of 42 likes her, as compared to the people on Facebook love Jonathan, but the cast of 42 doesn't. I feel like that's a cool comparison to, you know, to see like the people that actually played with these people actually agree that Tori is amazing, Jonathan not so much. So
Absolutely.
I like thinking about that comparison, I guess. I guess.
No, I think that is really interesting too, because like we talked a lot about like how much of what we see is reality, you know, and I think that like that was probably one of my biggest surprises, you know, is like after the post game is like seeing how tight knit Tori is, and I think there's like a very specific like tight knit group of like Hi, Tori, Chanel, Drea, Romeo, maybe and like that really surprised me, and it made me happy because they all look so happy and cute.
It makes me want to play even more now because
I
maybe I can make friends.
Alright.
So like me and Sarah did for 41, we are going to do senior superlatives. Oh my gosh. I'm still in coach mode. We're going to do 42 superlatives. And these are just our opinions. You know, if you think someone was a hero and we say that they're the villain, cool. Vice versa and all that. These are just how we perceived the people on the show. So we'll start with hero of the season. I'll go first. I do feel like in the end, Marianne was the hero of the season. I feel like just her hero's journey, going back to middle school English, was amazing to see. Yeah, she started off as like the court jester, but I think that was just all building blocks to have that moment at the end. And I feel like that's what, if everyone forgets everything else that she did in the season, I feel like the people like us will always remember that final tribal. So for me, I would say that Marianne is my hero of the season. If she hadn't won, there would have been other people, but I think because she won in a heroic fashion, I guess,
Right.
I would say Marianne.
Mm-hmm. Well, mine is Jonathan. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I was working so hard for that joke. Okay. No, don't cancel me. Don't cancel me. It's a lie. I agree with you, Drew. I honestly, I love Marianne for kind of a similar reason. Like, to me, I think that she broke what the winner's archetype typically looks like. You know, people who are very serious, who keep to themselves, who are social, but only social with a strategy behind it. I saw a lot more authenticity with her than I have, I feel, with nearly every winner I've ever seen in Survivor history. So she was my hero because, as a fellow weird person, like I'm a freaking weirdo, you know, and I just really appreciate whenever the weirdos win, you know. So she's my hero.
feel the same way. Like, her nerdiness personality, her weird personality is like so me. Like, that is who I am on the inside. And I connected with her, and I was just like reading her on all season. And I feel like she is my hero, but I feel like in the game, I would say Lindsay would be portrayed as the hero of the season.
Good one.
Yeah, I think like she always fought for her people. And then when she was the only one to stand against Jonathan in the immunity challenge, I think that was just a big hero moment. Like, she knew no one else was going to be able to compete against him, and she took one for the team and did that, you know?
Yeah. I also think that even in that really insane tribal council, whenever there was that discussion of race and how race plays a role in tribal council, because Survivor is a microcosm society, you know, she did such a great job at just listening and being an ally, at least in my opinion, and kind of embodied what people should do in those sorts of situations, especially people who are white.
Yeah, definitely.
Allies. Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know. I love my allies. So I would have said Lindsay too if Marianne hadn't won. Let's say Mike wins at the end, I would have said Lindsay. I really like Lindsay's story because, and that's another thing. I felt like, and I kept saying this throughout the season, I was going to be frustrated if Lindsay had won with the edit that she was getting, because it would have been like, oh, wow, you guys really didn't learn from last season, did you?
Right.
But I really liked, basically from the week that I went to New York City for the live know-it-alls until the finale, I feel like Lindsay probably had the strongest edit besides Marianne, because Homer went home right afterwards. So I would say that Lindsay, we'll get to this later, but I feel like Lindsay definitely made a case to potentially come back, and I hope she does. So going from hero, we've got to have our villain, and for me, it's basically between two people, TV villains. And we were just talking about TV villains, and we're talking about TV Survivor villains, I feel like Hai and Omer. And I would throw, and I would throw Drea in there. I just don't want to, but because Drea gave a lot of confessionals that made it come off like in game she was sort of a sociopath, but like it's fine. But in game, but like Hai and Omer, I feel like were the in game Survivor villains. And if I had to pick one, I would probably say Omer.
Interesting. Yeah. I think with me, whenever I think of a villain, I think of someone that I'm actively rooting against for the majority of the game. Meaning that like people who are pushing the what? What did you say?
I said so Tori. Like that's
no. Actually, I think that I am still gonna go with Jonathan, honestly. Like for me, just because I feel like he was someone that I was actively rooting against for the majority of it, because I didn't feel like he did anything strategic. Like I think that the hard thing with Survivor is that like you have to the line is really blurred between what constitutes a hero and what constitutes a hero with the strategy and how they utilize manipulation in their social game, and just like what makes you a flat out like villain, and so for me it was Jonathan.
Yeah, I didn't take that approach. I took more like what Drew did, but
Yeah.
I was on Omar. I think Omar is a likable villain, though.
True.
I think everyone loved Omar, even though he did backstab people left and right. I think everyone still loved him, and they kind of saw past his villainous strategy, which I think makes Omar an incredible player because he was able to kind of get away with being a villain without
True.
people giving him like hate for it, So yeah, I would put Omar as a villain. I think Mike is a potential runner-up villain. I think even though he doesn't realize that he made villainous moves, the jury clearly did, and we talked about that last week. Like that would be probably how the jury would react. But I think he played a good game too. Like if he would have owned his villainous moves, I think he definitely is a contender for villain too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm rewatching Heroes vs. Villains right now, which is probably a bad idea considering I'm going to watch it again.
It's a great season. There's never too many times.
July, but Heroes vs. Villains is so weird to me because of who production deems heroes and villains, and I think the most telling one is Danielle versus Candace, who in my head should be swapped. But also, and I don't know why they kept this in the edit. Heroes vs. Villains, I feel like by the end of my 42 and 42 will drop down to number 2 favorite season because there's weird things that happen, but one of the weird things that they kept in the edit is Parvati goes, I don't think that I'm a villain, blah, blah, blah. And Jeff's like, you bitch, like you led this all women's alliance and you did all this. He didn't say that first part, but it was implied. And Cirie and Amanda are literally sitting on the hero side of it all.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I don't like, I get it. I would say that Parvati is probably a villain. I would actually probably say that Amanda's probably a hero, but you can't use that as your reasoning for having Parvati be a villain when the two people that she worked with, along with 2 other people, are sitting the exact opposite side of her. So, Heroes vs. Villains is, I feel like it might, spoiler alert, might fall down in my rankings by the end of the summer, and that Cambodia might be one. But that's in the future. Okay, so going from there, who do we think is coming back? I won't put a cap on it. Just anyone that you think could potentially come back at any point, whatever theme. Like if you have a specific theme that you might think they might come back for, please say it. But like just anyone that you think could potentially come back.
Drea, 100%. She'll come back. Especially because she just won the CO award. Hey, queen. And then also like, if I had to maybe pick Hai and Omar, I'd love to see them come back, especially if they came back at the same time. It's kind of like a feuding situation where they work together, where they work against each other, If I had to pick someone pre-merge, that's always a fun one. I want to see Daniel come back, even though his strategy was flawed, but I think that he was a very entertaining character in my mind, and I would really very much like to see him come back.
Yeah, I would love to see Drea come back. I think she's a lock. I think she has the fan base, and she also played a really great game. I would love to see Omar come back, but there's that rumor going around that he leaked the boot order on Reddit of this season, and so people are saying
Omar?
he's not going to come back. Yeah, did you hear that?
What? Was he the one who leaked it?
That's all hearsay. Hearsay. Out there. Allegedly.
Oh my
Yeah. That's what people are saying. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So that's true.
Oh,
but
that would devastate me.
Yeah, it would be devastated if he can't because of that. But I would say Mike, I think, is coming back. I think he just really showed that passion in Survivor that a lot of the audience loved to see, and I think production loved to see that too. So I think Mike has talked about in his post-game interviews that he does want to come back. He's like, I'll come back any day. Marianne said she would come back in the future, but not anytime soon. So I think Marianne could potentially come back for some kind of big all-star season or something. And then, I think Hai might come back, but preseason, Jenny is a lock.
Jenny should come back.
Jenny Queen.
She was a fan favorite, and I thought that was so cool, especially for someone who isn't she got some screen time. We all wanted her to get more, and then she just became a victim of just Advantage Gate, right? Isn't that kind of how she went out? It was just
quasi Advantage Gate. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, Jenny.
I will say that Stuart gave a super chat. Thank you so much. But Marianne and Nasir as tribe captains, it'll be the most positive season overall. Season ever. Sorry.
I would live for it.
Ricard. I would actually, of those two, I would rather see Omar versus Ricard. Just as, I won't. I feel like that would be way better than Russell versus Rob or Coach versus Ozzy.
Very true.
But I also feel like it would end up worse for both Omar and Ricard in that situation, because I don't feel like they're going to gain complete control over their tribes like 3 of those 4 people did. So, Ozzy had pretty good control. Coach and Rob definitely did. Russell. So I feel like if they were to do a captain season, I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't go great for, and that's another reason I don't think that if they ever were to do a fans versus favorites 3, I think a fan might actually win that time because of the fact that they are casting more actual fans now.
Yeah.
As compared to the first times they did it, where it's like, oh yes, you're pretty.
They did not cast any fans.
You get regular 5s and 6s like myself on the show going against favorites. I feel like I wouldn't win, but another fan might win. And
right.
I think that, I like this era that we're in now where they finally realized it's not about pretty people anymore. It's not. There are very much pretty people on the show, but there are pretty people that like the show as well. And I think the fact that they are casting those folks now, the folks that want to actually play Survivor and they're not out there, for their modeling career or for the acting career or whatever, I feel like that era that we're in now, I'm excited for the first returner season that we get post 30.
Yeah. Theory, do you think it's 45?
I thought it might be 44, because we haven't seen any casting updates for it. They normally do those in the second. Oh, something.
I think so too.
If I call it and we do it, I'm gonna be so.
People run their mouths a lot, and I haven't heard shit about 44.
Yes. No. There's through the grapevine, I have heard 44 talk for sure. Also, we need to check social media. Keep an eye out because we need to look at some of those potential returnee players and see if they're active on social media. Because if they're not, they're
Yeah.
coming.
Ooh,
That's
sucks
good.
because all of 42 is active right now.
I know. I mean, yeah, like
Marvin's not.
I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of times, like on TikTok or something, people can like schedule when to post videos.
That's fair.
But I think we need to like look to see like if people are going live, they're not on the island.
Yeah.
You know?
So
But
Lydia's not coming back and Omer's not coming back.
Now,
Yep.
my other question is, if it is 44, then would we only get 41 and 42 since
I feel like it'd be
43 is grown?
35 to 42.
yeah,
Yeah, and they would also have to maintain that diversity quota, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Which is
Good.
why they can't do Heroes versus Villains. I'm sorry. So
I think Lauren and Davey are locked for returnee season, so keep an eye on their social media.
100%.
that's why I don't think Davey is, because I interact with Davey fairly often,
Yeah.
and he's never taken time away from it. But I do feel like Lauren, like I not to say that I don't think Davey's a lock, because I do think Davey's a lock. I don't follow. I mean, I follow Lauren on social media, but I don't follow her as closely.
I follow her
don't know.
profusely.
Yes, I know. Emily is obsessed with Lauren, and
I
my
wanna meet her
goal,
so-
one of my goals in life, survivor goals, is to introduce Emily and Lauren.
Don't-
together.
Don't speak that out into the universe unless you're going to make it happen for me, Andrew. Like, this is very serious to me.
It's my early 30th birthday gift to you. I know we're a few years off from that, but I guess to answer my own question, I feel like Omer, Drea, Jonathan, Jenny, and Hai potentially are relative locks to come back. 20 years from now, if they want to do another Winners at War, I feel like Marianne would. But I would say those 5 folk, I would say come back. But I know I kept touching on this, but like I feel like this is a testament to the season. There's not of 42 seasons. I could probably sit here. I won't do it. I could probably sit here and name the entire cast of maybe 18, 19 seasons. And this is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is a testament to how they were portrayed and how the season was just in general. Because 41, I was high on 41 after the season ended, ish. And I'm a few months removed from 41, I can't do that. 42, I can sit here and name everyone that was on the season, and I feel like that's a testament to it. And I can compare it to. I feel comfortable comparing it to Cagayan and David versus Goliath as new school seasons that will withstand the test of time. Once people hop off of their Jonathan horse, they'll realize that this was a good season. And I love it. I'm so excited for 43 because of 42.
True.
And I'm hoping that 43. I mean, unless it's amazing, it's probably going to be less than.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that it has to be.
Right.
I don't know, the Idols. It could just be Ko-Rong. So I'm excited for 43. And I especially find excited for 44 because I don't know.
Maybe because it normally happens like on like the second, like the springtime season, usually with the exception of with not second chances, game changers, right? Didn't game changers happen? Or was it second chances? No, it was second chances. Second chances happened
31.
on 31.
Yeah.
Yeah. So normally it happens on a second season, and like everyone's been like eating up the cast, So I've just really wanted to happen.
Well, you heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks. Oh my God.
Well,
It happens
now they're
always
like in
online.
that 2-week period before they start the game where they're going through all the like protocols. So I think everyone's still on social media, but like 2 weeks from now, let's keep an eye out.
Let's start stalking
Yes.
them. We've got nothing else going on right now, right? So we can just stalk social medias for a bit, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. So Gia had this on her podcast, and shout out to Silent Podcast. If you don't follow
Love
Silent
you,
Silent
Gia.
Podcast, follow Gia especially. She had one, and I'm actually curious. I'm going to steal this one from her. Best social media follow or best social media just presence, because everyone on that pod was unanimous in how we felt. But I want to hear how you guys feel.
We should do like 1, 2, 3, and I'll say it at the same time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, ready?
1, 2, 3. Lydia.
Lydia!
Okay, all right. All right. Moving on.
She interacts with me so. Yeah, she interacted with me so much before like the show actually dropped, because I was like just tweeting her. She was so funny, and like so I was like telling her how funny I thought she was. She was liking all my posts, like she was invested. So I love her. I love her.
All right.
So
I was telling her all the time, I was like, oh gosh, like I really hope that you make it far. And she said like, girl, me too, or like something like that, like she's very, very funny, and just like light.
No, Andrew, who did you say? Did you say Lydia?
I said Lydia, yeah.
Okay, just making sure we all said Lydia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There's not many people that give Hannah Shapiro her run for her money for all-time Survivor Crush for me. And Lydia came very close. And honestly, Lindsay came damn close towards the end of the season. As I try to push my glasses on my face. But in the end, Lydia is now firmly in that number 2 spot of all-time Survivor crushes, which we are thinking potentially about doing this summer. All-time Survivor crushes, Emily.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, let's do it. I would be so down for that. I have the most obscure people.
We have to do it. We're doing it.
Right now, spoiler alert, it is Hannah, Lydia, probably Lindsay. And Michaela Bradshaw.
I don't blame you.
So
mine is Christian and Christian only.
Yes, me too. Christian Spencer.
Christian Spencer.
Yes. I'm the biggest crush on Spencer.
So not Michael Yerger.
I know someone who knows him actually.
What?
I know someone who knows Spencer actually.
I know someone who knows Spencer actually.
I joined Spencer's like little Zoom meditation calls for a while. He was doing like weekly like yoga classes, and I was like, sure.
Oh my god, it's like your love story. Can you believe?
For the record, both of these people are taken, so like
me too.
No, I'm saying both y'all two.
Yeah.
I know. I'm aware. Go ahead and keep crushing my dreams on live podcasts.
All right, so I'm not going to do a whole jury power ranking just because there are a lot of them. But final 5 power rank, just how you felt like in the final. You can go from the final episode to the finale or to the final Tribal Council, or you can go from beginning to end. How would you rank these 5 people as far as whatever your own criteria is?
Wait, can you say that one more time?
So, of the final 5, based off of your own criteria, how would you rank them?
Oh, okay. Okay, my turn. Okay. So we'll start with number 5 and we'll work our way up. Jonathan is number 5 because I'm just like, goodbye. And he's not number 1. No. I just like, I mean, even if you take out like my own personal feelings towards him and those sorts of things, I just like didn't get a lot out of him in general, like strategy wise, just was not interested, could be the edit, could not be. It's hard because like, I'm kind of between Lindsay and Romeo for my number 4 spot. I think that Romeo did a lot more behind the scenes than what we actually saw. But if I'm focusing specifically on the edit, I would probably put Romeo 4th. But how about that final challenge though? Iconic. Then I would probably go Lindsay and then Mike, and Mike just strictly for more of like his social game. He was able to really embed himself whenever both tribes really became more dominant than the tribe he was in. Then Marianne is number 1, of course. Yeah,
I would put Jonathan at 5 too. I'm not about him. I would put Lindsay at 4 just because I think Romeo had a greater story. And honestly, there were some smart things that Romeo did. Like, he aligned himself with the underdogs. He had an alliance with Marianne and Omar called the Underbirds. He was a part of everything going on. You know, he said in his post game interviews, he knew who the vote was every time. He knew how many votes were going on that person so that he could throw a vote because he knew he was always going to be the backup plan.
True.
So he played an amazing game at making it to the end. He kind of played a bulletproof game of how to make it to the end, but he did not play a game that was, you know, a winner game. So I think that's where his downfall was. But I think he was thinking every time, like, how can I be safe? How can I be safe? And he was putting in the work to be safe every round.
Right.
So I would put Romeo at 3. And then if we take Final Tribal Council out of the picture, I do think Mike played a stronger strategic and social game than Marianne, but I think overall as like a, you know, full circle player, Marianne would definitely be number 1. You know, I am really impressed at Mike's game. I think even though his Final Tribal Council speech was not great and it lost him the game, I think what he was able to do in the game, how he was able to get so many people to trust him and get so much information. He kind of was like Omar in that sense. Like, he had all this information and he kind of navigated the votes around that. So I think his game was really impressive too.
Absolutely. Andrew, hello.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I caught myself that time. Don't worry. All right, so I'm going to agree with both of you. I will have Jonathan at number 5. And I'm just going to remove, you know, my super fan status for a second and just look at it as a casual fan. I think that I'm going to do it from based off of the beginning of the game to the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
During the pre-merge, Jonathan was a star. You know, I can't deny that because he was. And he was carrying physically his tribe, you know, not just him, but like in at least one challenge, just him. And so having said all of that, I really liked Jonathan pre-merge.
Mm-hmm.
When the merge hit, I kind of dropped off him because I was hoping that he would actually like, oh yeah, this is going to be more like Malcolm than it is like Joe, where Malcolm has strategy and social game. Joe, not so much. I was hoping that Jonathan would end up more like Malcolm when the merge happened because I really did like him. But it turned out that, you know, it was the not so much, and he ended up at 5 for me, which I love this final 5. So like, being 5 is not much. Like I appreciate what Jonathan did for the season. Number 4 is where it actually gets hard. 4 and 3 are hard because if I put someone at 4 instead of 3, it's going to look like, oh, you're shitting on them. Like, what? I'm not, because I actually really like these players. I would say that Romeo would probably be my number 4. And you know, I loved his final trial. I loved his merge game just in general. I loved his confessionals, underrated confessionals. Already. I loved him pre-merge. I sat here and said that I thought he was running the show on his camp at his camp. But I did feel like there was a drop off, and you know, blame the edit or whatever. I feel like there was a drop off, and I'm a person that puts stock in the social game above the strategic game because I think strategic players are sociopaths. That's not true.
Yeah.
I am.
So it's the resident sociopath. So number 3 would be Lindsay. I feel like, especially towards the end, Lindsay definitely, you know, at least on camera, Lindsay was shown as she knows what the hell she's doing. You know, she is a threat to win. Marianne saw her as a threat to win, which is why she didn't help her out in that situation. She didn't help her out at the latter part of the situation. She did help her out when it came to getting that advantage, which I loved,
Right.
Which we didn't touch on, but she threw that to get Lindsay the advantage, which, yes, amazing. So Lindsay is for number 3, and then honestly, yeah, if I were to sit there and Sarah had a good point of if you remove Final Travel from the case, I feel like Mike did a lot better than a lot of people gave him credit. A lot of people gave him credit for even before the season. Like watching the season, you see Mike's game, and it's like, oh wow, loyalty. Like, and he seems genuine. It's gonna suck when he leaves because he seems like a great guy. And the fact that he sat at the end, it was like, yes, that makes sense. The only problem is, I could also say the case for Marianne, where it's like, wow, she seems like a great girl. She's a little goofy and a little eccentric, but she's fun. She's fun television.
But that's why we love her.
There's no way, but there's no way she's going to sit at the end. It's going to suck when she gets voted out. And the fact that both of them sat at the end, once again, is a testament to the final 3. Because of the final 3, Romeo actually makes the most sense at sitting at the final 3 because we've seen a Romeo before as far as how to get there. Eccentric characters rarely, I'll say never because that's not true, but rarely make it to the end because they are eccentric and there are things that might turn people off to them. So the fact that we got 2 different types of characters get to the end, Marianne 1, Mike 2, or Marianne 1A, Mike 1B, or Mike 1A, Marianne 1B. I know that's a cop-out, but like that's how I feel. I feel like the 2 of them just, in general, like we don't get that often. There's usually a situation where it's like, okay, yes, this person may have won, but this person did whatever. But like in this case, I would not have hated if Mike or Romeo had won, but like Mike, oh my gosh, did I just? No, I didn't do the order they actually had voted out.
No.
I just wanted to make sure. But I do think that Marianne, based off of the fact that she won, but also based off the fact that her archetype doesn't always make the end. And I'm not like, for the people that say I'm doing it based off of whatever, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that she's an eccentric young female
queen.
They don't make the end, and so the fact that she did, same thing with Mike, eccentric older men don't make the end all the time. He did. I appreciated that. Sorry,
they all beat the odds. Yeah.
Yes.
And it is just so interesting just seeing how every single one of them defeated their own version of what the odds were. I guess that's normal, in every every finale, like everyone has like whatever quote unquote odds, but like I really felt like there was a point where any one of them could have gone home at any point. You can't really say that all the time,
Yeah. What's so cool is that the final 3 all like had their own community that they were like playing for. Like, you have Marianne playing for race, you have, Mike playing for LGBTQ community, you have not Mike, sorry, Romeo. You have Mike, the older crowd.
Like gays for Mike, yeah.
Gays for Mike though, gays for Mike. But it's so cool to see how they each had that. And I don't think we've ever seen a final 3 that like was so powerful and that we were all rooting for them in different ways, and they did beat the odds. They beat all the former Survivor season odds as to why people in the past have had a hard time getting to the end. They beat all those odds. Like, oh my gosh, so good.
It was so good. Honestly, the best season I think that I've seen in a really long time. It was fabulous.
One of the best final 3.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A week removed from this season, I could say this is probably my favorite newbie season since Dave vs. Goliath. Yeah, I guess Dave vs. Goliath. And Edric Station and Island of the Idols and 41 had good characters, but I feel like top to bottom, I felt like the season was amazing. So as we start to wrap things up, as we put a nice little bow on 42, and really a nice little bow on 41 and 42 because it's been a year. Final thoughts on our first year back to Survivor after whatever the hell 2020 was. Do you think that we potentially will get another 40-ish seasons or whatever the case is, or do you think that we are starting to build towards the end now with Survivor? Sarah?
I think that there will be at least 50 seasons. I think Jeff will stay until season 50, and then we might see him not be the host anymore. I don't know if somebody else will host, but I think we definitely have until 50 at least. And, I'm hopeful for 43, but my expectations are not high. That's kind of how I'm going into it, because just seeing the short little clip that we saw, I'm like, I don't like this cast compared to 42. I don't know. I feel like maybe 43 we're gonna see more gamebot like style gameplay. That was just a short clip that I got the vibe from, but I don't think we're gonna see a cast this close knit and as we did in 42, and that's why my expectations are low. So if 43 exceeds my expectations, great, I'll feel better. But right now I'm going into it with low expectations.
I kind of feel the same as you, Sarah. Like I'm hoping, like I think that we can definitely move at least to 50 with Jeff. And then like I could see a few things happening. I think that like my only big Survivor red flag right now is that they're not doing final tribals live anymore, and like that to me just sounds very weird. Like normally like that helps a lot with publicity and really helping to fulfill the Survivor community is like like being around live Survivor excitement, I guess. So that kind of seems like a red flag to me, but maybe I'm wrong. I think that 43, I have kind of the same attitude that I had with 42, which like 42 surprised me. I didn't think that I was going to be as attached to the 42 cast as I did with 41. But it like completely surprised me, and I loved it like beyond all measure. So I'm hoping that 43 is the same, because there's a lot of very interesting humans. One girl has rainbow hair. She seems cool. There's a whole bunch of people there that I think will be really, really interesting to watch, especially if they don't fit like the traditional Survivor archetype.
There's a guy that looks like Deshaun.
Oh yeah,
it looks like Deshaun. I'm like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? I thought it was Deshaun.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
For the people listening to the audio, I am black, so I don't think all black people look alike. So I am excited for 43. Not as excited as I probably should be, because I do feel like 42 set a very high bar for what 43 has to do. But even if it's a
subpar.
What's the word? Second chances going into co-wrong. Where second chances will probably by the end of summer be my favorite season of all time. Co-wrong for me is like a top 15 season. If they go from 42 to 43 in that aspect, perfect. All right. I am all right with that. I'm just hoping it's not more of a heroes versus villains to Nicaragua.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For all my Survivor fans.
Oh, God.
But final thoughts on, does anyone need to say anything before we go away? We're only going away for a week, but
yeah,
we're going away 41 and 42. We are done. I'm not talking about them anymore. Either of y'all have anything to say?
It was just a great season. I really appreciated everyone listening. I mean, I had a wonderful time just like recapping everything and kind of connecting with the Survivor community. So just thanks to everyone for always listening.
Yeah, I agree. I love the Survivor community. Like, it's brought so much to my life. So I'm so excited that we have 43 and 44 coming. It's confirmed,
Heyo.
Thank you all so much, everyone that's listened to this. There was a moment last week where we can see how many people are listening live, and like live is different from how many people actually listen. But like, there was a moment where there were a fair few folk listening to this, and I kind of had a moment where it's like, all right, how do we not screw this up and scare people away? But I just like anyone that has listened to this and is listening to this currently, thank you so much. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I know that we're not overly organized. We kind of just go train of thought, like just say whatever's on our mind. But I thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone that has come on over the past year. Thank you to our production staff. It's been amazing. This summer, and I can officially say this, the two big things that we are doing. One, we are absolutely doing 42 and 42. Anyone that wants to hop on at any point during 42 and 42, please just let me know. I'm going to need friends during those 42 days because. But also, I do plan on at probably towards the end of the summer after I'm done 42 and 42, doing a deep dive into the online Survivor community, online gaming Survivor community, as well as the live Survivor community, just to talk about how the games relate to the real game, how people are treated, how people are not treated, just all of that jazz. And there are a lot of people that have come on this pod, me and myself and Sarah included, that have played in a lot of these games that would have, more opinions on that. So I'm excited to talk about that. Probably gonna do it in sort of a panel type situation. Emily, it's been great. I love you. I know.
Oh my god, we can just get that live. You a softie? That's so sweet.
Oh God.
I love you back.
Okay. Enough sentimental crap. Thank you to everyone that comments in the chats. I appreciate the chats. Anyway, subscribe, all that jazz, and we will see y'all